Welcome to the Equity Team Podcast, where we provide Sedona, Arizona real estate insight to help you thrive during your next real estate transaction.
All right, welcome everybody back to the Equity Team Podcast. Today we have a very special guest, Cottonwood Mayor Tim Elinski. Thank you, Mayor Elinski, for joining us. This is amazing.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. Yeah, we really appreciate it. So we've got, the purpose of this is for us to kind of dive in and talk about a few things. We want to talk about short-term rentals and kind of what you're aware of, maybe anything that's in the works there as far as how things are being balanced and kind of processed on the city side. And then love to also touch base on kind of long-term housing and what's going on there. I know that Sedona, Cottonwood, they both have some similar incentive programs and kind of dig into that a little bit too. Does that work for you?
That's great. Yes.
Okay. Very good. So the first thing with the short-term rentals, so a lot of our viewers, they're investors and they're interested in, they want to park their money somewhere and they want to get the best returns possible. Will and I both feel that one of the absolute top markets in the area, aside from Sedona, which is a given, is Cottonwood. And we believe in the market. We see that the trends, how it's growing, are wonderful. And there's a lot of money that's come into the town, and it's really gotten not only polish, but it's really just improved overall, not just Old Town, but the rest of the town as well. Do you mind if we kind of dive in and have you talk a little bit about what you're seeing as far as development that's going to impact a lot of people in the town?
Sure, certainly. Well, I think, as you know, Cottonwood is the heart of Arizona wine country, right? We took on that helm, about 10 years ago. And this, we're seeing right now the fruits of our labor and in taking that, I think, pretty bold position to be the heart of Arizona wine country, whereas Cottonwood at that time didn't have a single vineyard in the city limits, right? And a lot of the grapes are actually coming up from 𝐬𝐿𝐫𝐿𝐫 and Sedona and 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐜𝐫𝐿𝐫. So, but we took that bold step. We took on the mantle of heart of Arizona wine country, really focused on, redeveloping our downtown historic corridor. And it's really paid dividends for us. As you can see, we've got great restaurants, a lot of great development, and that's starting to spread now throughout town. And we are focusing a lot on tourism, which we really haven't before. Cottonwood really historically was sort of an agricultural based community, and then a support community for the mines in the region. So to focus on tourism is kind of a new thing for us, but it certainly makes a lot of sense when you look at the beautiful region here in the Verde Valley, the river flowing through Cottonwood, great park amenities, access to the outdoors, and everything like that. So we've been discovered. You're correct. Your clients, they're coming here in droves, and they want to invest in Cottonwood in the Verde Valley. So I think, what we're going to see in the next 10 years, you're absolutely right. We're going to grow a lot. There's a lot of vacant land yet available in Cottonwood. There's some hindrances in terms of infrastructure availability out in some of these areas, but once that's overcome, then I think we're going to see a lot of growth. The biggest thing that we're focused on right now is getting some immediate housing in Cottonwood, really in the form of apartments, and some more affordable workforce housing units. That's really critical to our success in the short term. We need our economy to keep thriving. We have restaurants here that have, closures from time to time because they can't staff their restaurant, and that's a real problem. So we need to be able to house our workers, which is going to dovetail into our short-term rental conversation, I'm sure. But that's really our council's focus right now, is making sure we get units up out of the ground. Long-term, you're going to see development out on that 89A corridor headed towards Sedona, right across from Verde Santa Fe. A long time ago, probably 20 or so years ago, the city of Cottonwood annexed that from the county, and that whole parcel out there was already slated for development. So I think it's been fits and starts over the years, but I think you're going to see that whole property across from Verde Santa Fe break ground here I would say in the next year or so. They're really trying hard to get that project up out of the ground.
That's incredible. How many houses are we talking about for that parcel? Because I'd heard many versions of that proposed development.
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, so I think it's somewhere in the 2,500 unit range. It started out much larger when it was still under the county, but when we annexed it, we kind of whittled some of the units down. We got rid of the golf course. That was something that was proposed out there. So we take our our natural resources seriously here in Cottonwood. We want to make sure that we don't drain the aquifer prematurely, right? So we whittled it down significantly, but I think it's around 2,500 units. And they're really going to tie in the wine theme too. It's called 89 in Vine. That's the name of that development. So they're really, leveraging all that we've done here to brand ourselves as Heart of Arizona Wine Country. Now, we also annexed Spring Creek Ranch, which is very controversial. We went through forest land to get out there. We've annexed that. We're not sure exactly what's going to happen with that property yet, but we want to be there at the table when they go to develop that to make sure that it fits with our community identity. And then across the street from all of that, on the north side of 89A, is all state trust land. There's 10 sections of state trust land out that way. That's a whole lot of units available. It's private land. It will at some point be developed. We've looked at annexing it in the past, but state trust lands wants us to finish up some of the other annexation properties that we have before they'll give us the green light on annexing that into Cottonwood. But I've always really been a favor of annexations where it makes sense and where it fits our community, in that we really do take like I said, our natural resources very seriously. We take infrastructure very seriously. So for every gallon of water that we deliver, we give back about 70% of that through our wastewater reclamation facility. And that water then we can direct inject into the aquifer to make sure that we can sustain ourselves far into the future. Whereas the county doesn't have as many tools in their toolbox, if you will, to manage development. But in Cottonwood, we do it, and we take it seriously.
Yeah, I'm so happy you mentioned that, because so many clients ask us about water in the Verde Valley. And I'm like, well, do you know what the Verde Valley translates to? It's the Green Valley. And yeah, it is really cool. And that's kind of a topic for another video, is these massive aquifers that we have. And we have basically, my understanding is 2 large aquifers kind of on top of each other that have more than 500 years of supply. Because I don't think they calculate further than 500 years. I think it's just more than 500 is how the EPA or whoever measured it last, justified our aquifers. So I'm glad to hear that on the reclamation. That's a big piece for Arizona, because I'm sure you saw the news today about the proposal for the water on the Colorado. So we'll see how that progresses. But, it's nice that we have our own little sovereign community that regardless of what happens, if we protect our aquifers, we're going to be okay.
Certainly. Yeah. And that's kind of our approach, really, is to make sure that we've got our water future dialed in, locked in. Yep.
Good stuff. So what are your feelings towards short-term rentals? Just for those that don't know, they're statewide. Arizona it's a short-term rental friendly state that we have here in Arizona. But as of last year, we now have some local municipality requirements that counties can opt in on. They can choose to require certain things. And how are you, and how's the council, how's everyone in Cottonwood feeling about short-term rentals, and what direction do you think we're going to go in?
Right. So we actually just approved an ordinance that's taken effect probably this month. And I'll go into some details on that. But, historically, when short-term rentals really started to crop up, we were concerned that Cottonwood, only so much because it really was impacting Sedona more. And what impacts Sedona obviously impacts us. We've been workforce housing for a number of years for Sedona. And when their housing units get displaced by short-term rentals, it impacts us over here. So, and then as our housing cost has gone through the roof, as I'm sure we no longer are that. We're no longer that workforce housing for Cotton. And short-term rentals have played a pretty significant part of that. I'm sure Diablo told you, I think it's 18% or so of their housing stock is short-term rentals. That's significant. Yeah. So in those really extreme cases, like you see in Sedona, or like you see up in Page, those give me pause when it's truly displacing workers, when the city of Page truly can't hire teachers to come in to teach because they're staying in hotel rooms and eventually they get burned out and move to another community. Page just is in really bad shape because there's no bedroom community anywhere near there for folks to commute from. So if they can't have it available in Page, it really does impact them greatly. So I'm also the chair of the Greater Arizona Mayors Association, so I hear from my colleagues across the state and see what they're faced with. And so that does give me concern. GAMA, the Greater Arizona Mayors Association, did try to encourage our legislators to allow some local control. It's one of the issues that we've taken up in the past couple of years. The bill that was passed, it allows a little bit of local control, but really not that much. In Cottonwood, we're going to take them up on some of the offerings, but not all of them. In Cottonwood, we don't really have that big an issue with short-term rentals. We have about, we estimate maybe 100 or so, out of, upwards of 6,000 housing units. So it's not really that big an impact in Cottonwood. And as we focus more on tourism, we also realize, we don't have the hotel units, so short-term rentals do fill a void for us here in Cottonwood. But we are, we as a council are also concerned about what's really a commercial use in residential areas. I think the spirit of Airbnb really was that you would have your primary property, but then you would have an opportunity to make a little bit of supplementary income from either renting out a bedroom or a couch, which people thought was crazy, but it took off, right? Or you would have a secondary, casita on your property of sorts, and you'd be able to rent that out. But there would still be a primary residence. I think that was really the spirit. I think what's happened is a little bit alarming, especially when you look at places like Page and Sedona. Bisbee is another area that's really been impacted by short-term rentals. So, some local control is good. When you try to apply, a blanket, bill that fits Maricopa County, it doesn't always apply in rural Arizona.
I'm so glad to hear you say that. That's spot on.
It's a running theme for us. Unfortunately, it's they call it the great state of Maricopa. At times I feel like we are their playground. So I'm sure they love that short-term rentals are wide open up here. But it does impact neighborhoods. It does impact displacing workers, and it impacts our economy in ways that they don't necessarily realize down there.
Mayor Elinski, given that the percentage of short-term rentals is quite low in Cottonwood, and it's not a problem in Cottonwood like it is in some other areas, this isn't anything, no one's going to hold this to you, but do you expect there to be any adoption of the statewide legislation in terms of those requirements? For now, just not going to take those on, not going to opt in, I'm assuming?
No, actually, we did. We enacted an ordinance, ordinance number 731. And so
it is 731. Okay.
Yeah, we did pluck out a few elements, but it's basically, we're treating it like a business, like any other business. So we're asking them to come and get a business license. It's an annual fee of $50. So really not a big deal. We're asking folks that own short-term rentals to let the neighborhood know. So let the neighbors know you've got a short-term rental. Please supply a contact number so we can get a hold of you in case of an emergency. And that's basically it. We're not going to take a real heavy hand with them, unless necessary. I live in Old Town, and I see that there's more and more, short-term rentals cropping up here and there. But as yet, it's not as big an impact as you've seen in other communities.
Yeah, that's great. I didn't realize that Cottonwood was I should have known that, but I didn't, that Cottonwood was already doing the short-term rental permit. And, most of our clients feel that is a very good thing, because then it is literally permitted. And then it feels like, now we know what all the cards are. They're on the table, and we could just run our business, and we don't need to worry about it all of a sudden that's going to be stripped away or something like that. So that's good.
In Cottonwood, we've always been a free town in the valleys. So whereas, Clark was company owned, Clement was company owned, we've always been a free town. So we've been very supportive of business in general and commerce in general. So we didn't really want to take a heavy-handed approach to it, but we do appreciate that we have some way to not regulate, but at least monitor. So if it does get out of control, then we can take appropriate steps if necessary. But at this point, we just want to know, are you operating a business? Great. Come in and get a business license, shake our hand, and get your TPT license, and let's do business.
All right. Well, that sounds really good. Now, I'm very glad to hear the communication with other mayors across the state. Has there been, and I know this is a totally different animal here, but has there been any conversation with Katie Hobbs or with legislators at the state level? Have you heard anything about what's coming? That's what everyone wants to know.
Well, we in Cottonwood, we've just been freaking out about the food tax and then possibly rescinding food tax. So we've been really narrowly laser focused on making sure that they don't do that. We're 100%
Fair.
sales tax dependent. We don't have a property tax in Cottonwood. So whereas it sounds great to not have a food tax, it would actually really impact us in a very detrimental way. So we're kind of focused on that at the moment.
Yeah.
And we did meet as a council. We meet every year as part of our strategic retreat. We come up with a whole list of goals and things that we want to focus on. And our 5th strategic directive, based on our council input, is to have more of an advocate at the legislature. So I'm really excited to see how we flesh that out in the coming years, because we do recognize that we need to have a stronger voice down there so that we are heard and respected. And so we're going to be, I don't know what it looks like if we're going to be hiring some staff to help us out with that, or maybe even the Verde Valley could come together and hire maybe a lobbyist. We've kind of, kicked that idea around in years past, but it might be time really to have just a stronger voice down there.
Yeah, it's good. The lobbyists, I hate to say it, but they get things done. They really do influence. Well, this is perfect. Those were my main questions. Will, do you have any other follow-up questions for me?
I do. Again, thanks for joining. It's great to get some face-to-face and get those updates, like you said, with 731, because I remember reading an article about the reading of 731, but I didn't know it had passed. I hadn't seen a press release or anything come out yet about that. But I think it's good. I agree. I think all of our clients and anyone who's an investor agrees as well, because I don't like the Wild West style of investing. I think it's dangerous. There needed to be some regulation, and it does make investors feel better when there's like the city has a grasp of it,
right? And
locals feel a little better, because when it's Wild West, it becomes a little crazy. Like the Scottsdale parties that we read about. Obviously, luckily, we don't have that problem in the Verde Valley. I've never heard of anyone having that issue here. It's not really where people party. It's kind of where people do the wine trails and everything else. But you've done such a great job with Cottonwood, with the downtown area, like the development of housing. I was just driving towards Clarkdale the other day, and I saw that huge development. I would love if you could talk about that, because I don't know how many doors that is, but it looked like quite a few, several hundred, I would guess.
Yeah, that's Inspiration right across from the hospital on the bypass. Yeah, it's 192 units. So we needed that desperately years ago, but it's finally around, and we're anxiously awaiting those doors being, welcoming families into the area. And
do you have a date for that yet? When it's going to be finished?
I'm sorry, I don't know. I should have looked into that. They're flying. They're flying as fast as they can complete. So I suspect probably within 1 year, I would say, probably within months.
Yeah, that's great. So, another question that I wanted to ask is basically, for investors, because we're not just realtors and manage a real estate team, but we're investors. I personally own 30 properties in Arizona. Almost all of them are long-term and affordable housing properties. I only have, I think, one short-term rental in all of Arizona. And, I'm a big fan of Cottonwood, even though I grew up in Sedona. I think it's sometimes easier to get things done when it comes to development, building, getting permits for things like that. You really streamlined it, and I think that's helped, expand and improve some of these neighborhoods that were in desperate need of repair. But a question I want to ask is, for investors, I'm sure you're reading on the news like SVB Bank and Credit Suisse and these banks having these issues. Investors are coming to us asking, where should I park my money? Where should I invest my money? And that's why short-term rentals always comes up, because it's such a good investment. It's such a good return, but it has repercussions, right? So I think having a mixed portfolio of long-term, short-term, and potentially commercial development is a good idea. But, for investors that are listening, what would you say to them, people that want to invest in our community, that have money, that want to develop, that have a land, how can we help? What are you looking for? Are you looking for apartments? Are you looking for hotel development? What is it that Cottonwood is really trying to attract?
Right now, at this moment, we need apartments that are affordable for our workforce and for families, because if you look at our increase in population, we haven't blown up in population, but we are increasing year over year. But if you look at our student body population, it's flat, and that's a problem. We have families that just can't afford to live here anymore because there aren't enough units available for them. So we really need to have some housing units here that families can live in, because those families then, you talk about investing in Cottonwood in the monetary sense, but families invest in Cottonwood in the human capacity sense, right? They're here to raise their kids. They're invested in sports, in church, in after school activities, and in our community and in the success of our community. So that's really where I would like to see focus right now. There are investors out there, and there's a lot of opportunity right now for apartment complexes, and we're trying to be a partner with any developer that comes forward. So our doors are wide open, and we'd love to have some folks come in and say, we can make that happen. We can get some units for your workers, for your families.
And what kind of incentives do you guys typically try to offer? Say we identify a piece of land, probably needs to be rezoned to a higher density typically, and then we want to put, let's just say, 50 to 100 doors. What does some of the perks look like, and how does the city facilitate a development like that?
Well, it's on a case-by-case basis, so if there is a rezone that needs to be implemented to do what they want to do with the property, then it's really on a case-by-case basis. So, you would meet with our development staff. We have a housing manager that we co-hired, Shannon Boone. We co-hired her with the city of Sedona.
We know Shannon well. Yep.
We just interviewed her last week.
Yep. We did. Okay. Yeah. So, she would be the one to talk very specifically about some of those programs, but our council is willing to negotiate, is willing to put money behind it. We've done all kinds of things as a council to try to, correct the situation that we're in right now. We have a down payment assistance program that we put together. We're doing what we can. So I would say, come at us with some ideas. And I think you said earlier, we're easy to work with. I would absolutely agree with that. And see what we can do here.
It's really wonderful. It's wonderful to see that Cottonwood is in a great position relative to other nearby towns. And this is kind of full circle to what you were saying earlier, Mayor Elinski, is that, Cottonwood has long-term housing. They need more. They definitely need more. We need more to support the other towns too. Sedona residents are coming over to Cottonwood and on and on working in Sedona. And so we definitely need more long-term housing. But relatively, Cottonwood is in a really good position. And that shows me that the growth that's coming is going to be gradual, and it's going to be really good, healthy growth for not only the town of Cottonwood, but also supporting all the other areas nearby as well. And Cottonwood has a lot to offer. It's great.
Yeah, no, we're in a good spot. It's great to see.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate your time, and thank you so much.
I've been in this office.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, well, very good. Well, thank you, Mayor Tim Elinski. Thank you so much. This has been amazing. Really good information. And I don't know if you're okay with it, but, maybe down the road, maybe we could even do a follow-up podcast with you, because we have some follow-up questions from some of our viewers and things like that.
I would love that. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. And stay in touch.
All right. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thanks for tuning in to the Equity Team Podcast. To speak with one of our top agents, visit us at owninaz.com. That's owninaz.com. Or call us at 928-323-0031.